Hello, guys. It's Guru Talks. We have excellent expert today. It's Gery Pollak, Ecosystem Business Development Head at Thirdweb, our partner. Today we have Yaro, our biz dev, and we will talk about ecosystems, about business, and about development. The stage is yours, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Roman, for the intro. Gery, welcome to the show. I'm your host. I'm going to be running this. The format is very relaxing. There is no questions prepared. There is no specific agenda. This is where we invite experts from the space to really just get comfortable. This is a safe zone where we can talk about whatever's on our mind, whatever excites us, whatever is, you know, super cool happening in the space. You are coming from the ecosystem space, which I'm super obsessed with. I want to know more. I want to dive more into those kind of questions. And I think the whole goal of this conversation to be candid, to be real. And I would say our audience are those who are getting into Web3 or already in Web3 and want some just, coffee and snack format content, or want to get to know more about what is actually Web3 about. Gery, how about we get started with just maybe a little breakdown story of your background? You don't have to go into everything, just on a high level is good.
Awesome. So first of all, thanks a lot for having me, Yaro. It's really a pleasure being here with you at Guru Talks. So quick background about myself. I've actually been a founder in the space myself. I've co-founded Blocktorch, which was an observability and data company in the space, and we got acquired by Thirdweb last year, pretty much a year ago, actually in June 2024. Through that, I joined here the Thirdweb team on the ecosystem side, and we also have our full engineering team being kind of like the data and infrastructure unit here now at Thirdweb. That's kind of like my background. I have also like a self-taught developer background, so I have attended and also won a couple of prizes at a couple of the ETH Global hackathons, for example. But first and foremost, I'm actually a business development professional, and in Web3 and at Thirdweb, I'm especially kind of like reliable and responsible for building partnerships with, for example, you at Guru Network, but also many other ecosystems, and making sure that builders are equipped with the right tool set to build their apps and games in Web3.
Yeah, well, first of all, congrats on successful venture, on successful acquisition. This is awesome. It's always great when you can lead, give a birth to something and then grow it to certain milestone and then give it a new life, new home, a new extension. I think that perfectly equips you to really be that ecosystem partner, really make an impact on what is being developed. And as we discussed with our previous guest, Tyler from Utopia, Web3 is still in early days. It's still like 1990s for the internet, still needs to grow and, be better. And everything is just early. It seems like, oh my God, it's already happening. Yes, it is, but still early. And being this early, I really want to go into the whole ecosystem side. I think ecosystems is the key of successful projects, chains, products, and it's really hard. Most companies underestimate how hard it is to build successful ecosystems. To your opinion, what do you think makes a successful ecosystem?
So I think what we have also been seeing as like very successful launches of ecosystems and how it is being driven is not too much focus purely on, let's say, like certain campaigns like airdrops and so on that attract a lot of like short-term incentivized users, but actually having a strategy around how to grow, maybe first being in a current kind of like stealth mode, maybe even, and only after that then slowly open up wider and wider, and through that actually having a very bespoke strategy around that. So being able to making sure that verticals onto your ecosystem first, then through that not kind of transactions in the ecosystem, or like a huge amount of like Discord members, but having those that are really highly committed, like having a set of strategic applications that you want to go live with in the very early stages from the beginning, and then slowly actually gradually growing it further.
So you would say it's all about the users, right? Some users are short-term users, just like a spark, and some are actually sticking around and making impact long-term and build on top of your product. How do you think, like, I think everybody would want to have, when you open up any business, you want people to keep coming. If it's a restaurant, oh, of course I want 1,000 people who are going to come every day to my restaurant and eat, right? But it's not really possible. People do just swing by once. Maybe they loved everything, but there are short-term users. How do you really keep people in and be excited and incentivized? Where do you find them? What's the typical like great strategy if you have that answer?
No, I think at the end of the day, I think often we kind of like think too far out of the box. Maybe in Web3, it's like everybody here is also just a startup, right? And we need to hit product market fit. And for product market fit, it like needs some demand, and like it needs a product that meets a certain market, and that should also kind of like be a growing one, or a big enough one. And so I think actually when it's about kind of like making sure that you attract the right user group and kind of like those that stay long term with you and are not just kind of like short term financially incentivized, it's about the products that you're attracting on your ecosystem or building yourself in your ecosystem should meet a certain user demand. It's like, it is healthy to speak to users and try to understand what their problems are and what they're facing, and then building towards that, versus purely kind of like seeing some, I don't know, let's take an example. Let's say Pump.fun, right? Meme coin token launchpad, certainly a great idea, certainly a huge success. Does it mean that every single ecosystem needs a replica of it? Maybe not, right? Like maybe the demand is already kind of like covered on some ecosystems. So maybe it makes more sense to focus on, let's say, a specific AI vertical in the DeFi sector, or on RWA, or on gaming, or on stablecoins, or on, like you can go on and on with those different type of ideas. I think what really matters at the end of the day is thinking about, okay, how can I differentiate enough to make a stance? And I think a second culture, like looking at for example ecosystems like Monad or Berachain. Like I'm not kind of like putting any kind of like stance if I'm a huge fan or not of any of the different ecosystems, but I think they have built a very bespoke culture around it, and that kind of like attracts the people that are kind of like drawn towards that culture, and it is sticky. It is gonna keep them in their ecosystem at the long term.
Yeah, an opinion I heard that is alternative to this, and kind of adds to it, is you can treat projects just like I don't know, like venture route. You can just give them funding and hope that they're going to stick around and they're going to build successful things forever. Most developers do get burnt out. Cash is not a solution to everything, right? And if you don't have the spark going for your project, this is when you can really stop working on it. And this is where the ecosystem suffers, because you want ongoing, just like you said, each project want those users, they're going to keep using your product. The same thing for ecosystem growth. You want each project to keep building and growing, right? And therefore you have to really become that accelerator, business coach, guide, everything for those projects. Because if you help them build successful business on top of your ecosystem, then you have something solid going on. And I think this is the biggest angle right now happening in the space, is a lot of companies are realizing that, and they really want to provide all the resources they can in order for those projects to succeed and become long-term projects. What is the most exciting thing you've seen recently in the Web3 space in terms of projects? Or, a lot of people reach out to integrate Web3 wallets and stuff. What is super exciting that you've seen? Gery, I think we have a little bit of delay. Just making sure you can hear me.
First, can you hear me, Yaro?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand. Yeah, well, right now you're back. Yes, you froze for like 30 seconds.
Okay.
So I do not know if you
Okay,
answered
weird. Okay, I kept seeing you. Yeah, I kept seeing you. So, but it works fine now again.
Yeah. Okay. It looks good. Yeah.
Okay. So I said kind of like there are like two key elements that I am personally excited about, which first of all is that one can build really great UX actually. So it is possible to onboard Web2 users in like a larger scale because the UI actually allows to build really, really nice user flows and experiences, even though some of like the legacy bigger teams that have built like many years ago still have a bit of like clunky UI, but like the new ones building are actually building really, really cool user experiences. And I think the second element that I'm really excited about is that like the whole stablecoin use cases and also paired with AI allow kind of like especially emerging markets to build really new rails when it comes to like financial applications and financial like the whole financial system at the end of the day. And so these are two things that I'm personally like really, really kind of like excited and curious about.
Yeah, you just hit the nail on the head with the UX. I think this is the biggest challenge in Web3 is it's like a bunch of people, very, very smart, technically smart, build systems that are so great, but they forgot about UX. They forgot, hey, people have to actually understand it. It's just like my analogy here is the first computer. They were fine. All developers were fine with just keyboard. They're like, we don't need a mouse. We don't need interface. We can just type commands and do whatever we need to do. We can play games. We can write documents. We can write software. We can launch it. We don't need any of that stuff. This is current state of Web3. And then the regular casual users come in. They're like, we need a mouse. I think mouse is nice when you can just browse around and see what's happening. We need folders. We need to have these icons on the screen, right, to navigate. And this is exactly what's missing in Web3. So all of you UX designers who are passionate about Web3, please come in. This is your time to shine because systems are in place. Now we need better designers, better people who understand what this is about and how it's going to change the world to actually step in and provide that next level. I currently see this happening as a major wave. Obviously, Thirdweb is helping huge in this sense of authorization and wallet creation, all that stuff. It just makes it so streamlined and simple that you can just simply follow the steps, right? And most people coming into Web3, they feel like my grandma was feeling when she got her first phone. She was just lost. She couldn't navigate. She's like, why I have to press this button? So why this logic doesn't make sense? But then Apple came and simplified everything. And then she's like, hey, this looks like a camera. Well, you click this and your camera is going to open up. And you don't have to browse through menus anymore and to find your camera option, right? So I feel like this is where we need most help in the UX. What do you think in terms of UX? Where's the biggest miss that we're having in the Web3 space? What would be the next one to be reimagined?
I think we still haven't fully figured out kind of how we can make the UX onboarding flow very seamless and still have all the security measures in place that we need. So embedded wallets are great, but if there is a social engineering attack where in some way the user is being kind of like tricked into exposing their private key, then still there is like a huge issue, right? So I think we already have like a great way of creating wallets. Like you can sign in with like socials already in most applications. It's a Web2 onboarding flow. You don't need to store a seed phrase. But then how do we kind of enhance security in a way that like these social security, like social engineering attacks that are ongoingly still happening can somehow be mitigated. I think that would be actually a huge next step, kind of like having self-custody without the current security bottlenecks that they impose on self-custody.
Interesting. Can you iterate more on how would that turn into the UX experience, if you have a vision for it?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's really about, like, as you said, like your grandma using a phone for the first time, right? It's like, if I would let my mom create like an application, like a wallet, basically sign up with like you name like the application with a great onboarding UX, right? No need to store a seed phrase, nothing like that, right? But still, there is a way where there is a button that lets you export the private key, because that is what self-custody is about, right? It's like you own your private key. If there is an attacker that wants to, with social engineering, let's say like some AI mask trying to be me and saying like, hey mom, I want to help you port the wallet over into another app, right? That kind of like really becomes an issue at the point where it's like, maybe she actually opens that and like clicks the button to show the private key, right? So I think that's an issue. One of like the elements that we are actually also started pushing and that you guys also are working greatly with is the ecosystem wallet approach, where you have like the great UX, but you can use the wallet across the whole ecosystem, so that you do not have the fragmentation of like wallets in each application. So you never get kind of like drowned into that idea, maybe I should export my private key there and import the wallet there at this other application, because it's always the same. And so I feel like this fragmentation, if it's like removed more and more, and there is like better flows of using the same wallet at the end of the day, like your user account across apps, without having to mitigate either on the security side nor on like the UX flow, I think that's kind of like the next very, very big iteration.
I'm very much with you. I'm freshly onboarded into Web3 and already have like 7 wallets. And I'm like, why? I don't have that many credit cards. Like, why do I have 7 wallets just hanging around? Right. So to me, it's like, eventually, I think ideally, if you have one wallet that you know how to use real well, it's simple design. I don't know who's the provider, Thirdweb, and you're using that one specific wallet for everything, every single app, because now you go to any platforms like connect your wallet, right? And I think that should be the wallet you can connect, but also the wallet should be able to have all chains in it, because some wallets are like, hey, we're only doing this chain. Well, then that should not be the wallet, right? Because now you limit it. And I feel like this is a huge opportunity in Web3. The company that will really figure out how to create that ultimate wallet experience, trusted, all chains, everything in one place, that you can just have specific number and or credentials that you can put in every app, and you know it's securely connected, that you know this company, just like Apple is all obsessed about security, this company or this wallet is obsessed about security as well, that you know that even if the app that I connected to were to try to do something shady, the wallet will protect me from anything happening. I think that will be the monopoly on the whole wallet space. And I think that would be, I don't know, close to $1 trillion company. Like that would be insane to just be the player that is being trusted for all the transactions, right? Or for storing all the value. What's your stance on it? Does the Web3 plan on handling the security space, or Thirdweb, I mean, sorry. Does Thirdweb plan on handling the security space to that extent?
So I said, I think the actual best user experience today is to use ecosystem wallets from Thirdweb, because you can have the kind of like experience of UX of like logging in with like your Web2 auth flow. And I'm really thinking about like, this is auth, right? It's like, it's purely like you want to authenticate with an application. And at the same time, it resolves into the same wallet at the end of the day across your applications. So it eliminates the fragmentation of what in-app wallets actually force you onto, while at the same time allowing you to have the great UX that we already have in Web2. And I think that's kind of like the way to go. Is like, of course, right now we then see ecosystems that are maybe still a little bit too close. So as you say, like the best vision of it would be across chains, same ecosystem, across chains, right? Across applications, all applications of this chain. certainly we're not there yet. We're at the starting point. I think we will move more and more towards that. But that's a great one. And I think now kind of like EIP 7702 was released with the Pectra upgrade on EVM chains. That also is going to be like a very good enhancement of the UX when it comes to smart accounts. And so there we are also fully compatible. It's like now actually your wallet address is also kind of like the address that triggers the transaction, and not, you don't need to suddenly have two different ones, which is like the smart wallet address, right? And your EOA. So I think these are two big important steps towards a better UX and better onboarding and user engagement experience. But like how I'm really thinking of it is like there are three elements to that. It's like you onboard your user, so that's authentication, and then you want your user to engage as soon as possible. Like that's how an application creates stickiness and like user retention. It's like you need to get the funnel down to like someone creates an account, someone uses your application, right? And then the last step actually is like the part of like holding funds. There is like, in general, I'm not authenticating with my bank account in all the apps in Web2, right? It's like I have auth and I have a bank account or credit card. And whenever I want to do a financial transaction in any of those applications that I authenticated with, I can then use my credit card, for example, right? And so we are thinking of it like there's like the onboarding flow, which is the UX of how you get someone into your application. You need to have a good flow and UX and get the funnel down to make them use your application. And then at that point only, you might want to allow them or ask them or prompt them to do a financial transaction, which is where Thirdweb Universal Bridge comes in, which is like, one, if you want to create a transaction, you don't even need to hold funds in your wallet yet. You can use like your credit card even, right? And so I think that's how I'm thinking about it. It's like, I don't even likely want to authenticate with my bank account in the whole of the web, right? I want there to be kind of like, okay, I want to have auth there, and then if I am ready to have some funds there, or if I'm ready to pay for something in that application, that's the point where I actually want to utilize this payment rate, and not already before that.
You know how Web2 users think. This is exactly how they want. Like nobody wants to sign up to Amazon and put $1,000 and be like, maybe I want to shop. No, right? You want to shop when you want to shop, and you want to pay only when you're ready to pay. And the same thing here. And like, why are we still doing it so that, put the balance and then you can do something on the app if you have the balance there? Whether it's supposed to be like, hey, you want to do a transaction? By all means, just when you're ready, we can execute that transaction on the fly. To me, this is kind of brings me to the next point of UX issue, is not being able to do smooth swaps from chains to chains, from token to token. And for Web2 users, it's very confusing that I thought, like most Web2 users, like crypto is just one thing. You just have different variations of it, right? Like when you look at the charts, they all look like they're in the same chart, but turns out they're all on different chains and they're connecting some different way and they mean different things. But for regular people, they don't see difference. It's like currency in the world. You know, there is yen, there is euro, there's dollar. It's the same. Like you can swap, right? If I can swap that, why can't they easily swap crypto? Well, you can't. You have to bridge. You have to figure out all these things. And my grandma would never be able to do that. And I think my goal in Web3 is to figure out the way how we can simplify process so that at least my mom can start using it without asking me millions of questions, because I cannot be her personal assistant all the time, right? So let's work on this together to make the experience of Web3 super accessible to everyone. And I mean that by even making the payments process or swapping or sending money abroad or doing anything looking like a regular transaction. It does not have to be all about crypto. Like, I think the point is sometimes people forget is people are advocating and promoting crypto and Web3 so much that they want people to know it's crypto and Web3. But is that the point? Or the point is actually providing new experiences to people, which I think new experiences that haven't been before or didn't exist before, right? That is the key. And if I can easily send some money to my mom through crypto and she can just cash it out there and use it somehow, I think that's the amazing experience that she's going to say, wow, how did that happen? Right? And then I can say, hey, this is because it's crypto and this is possible and this is how it works. So going to my next question, before I even dive into that, anyone listening in the chat, ask questions. We do have live chat for the questions, and this is your chance to ask Gery anything about ecosystem or anything like that. So please participate. But my question would be, what do you see the biggest sort of opportunity in Web3 in that sense of like new experience?
That is a tricky one, because there are a lot of parallel developments happening. I think one element that is extremely interesting is around AI agents and how they can have payment rails embedded through crypto. Because likely, I mean, an AI agent will never be able to hold a bank account in the sense of like passing a KYC or something like that, right?
Right.
I know there are ways where you can, through MCP, call some Stripe APIs and through that handle some payments. But I think like using stable coins, for example, or any crypto rail at the end of the day for AI agents to transact when it comes to payment flows is just making sense. That's kind of like what I think we will see in the future. That's the one element that I think is really, really interesting and huge opportunities there. I think on another side, I think also there are like a lot of DeFi primitives, and their AI can actually also be a huge enabler, where if you're not a degen, quote unquote, in terms of like really deep into DeFi, many of the concepts you might not be fully familiar with, and so you might not be able to actually fully take the advantage of like the financial yield or like the upside that you could get. But with like AI, let's call it co-pilots for navigating your DeFi, let's call it strategies, you could pretty much automate that, or at least have someone giving you the right advice, and that someone is an AI, right? And I think the very different element that I think is huge opportunity these days is RWA, anything around like real world asset tokenization, thinking about commodities and any other kind of like financial asset today, where there are just like huge barriers for some of them to trade actually, to enter those. I think they're all very, very interesting and huge opportunities actually right now being unlocked.
Very exciting. AI agents that can transact. That's where you got me. Do you think we're gonna get to the point where Amazon's gonna take USDC or any other stables?
I mean, I know that at some point in the past, through BitPay, for example, Amazon already allowed to use crypto to make purchases on Amazon. But I absolutely do think like USDC, even if not Amazon directly embeds it, some of the payment providers, like whether you pay with like PayPal or Stripe or Klarna or you name it, right? They might allow it. Or in the worst case, if there is no integration of those, you can get a card that is already kind of like available in many kind of like flavors, where with this card, it's a credit card and you can just tap your crypto wallet straight for actually financing the card, right? So I think already today you have a couple of options how you could pay with your crypto on ordering an Amazon, but I think it will even get closer and deeper into it. And think about like a multinational company, it just makes so much sense to use like really fast and cheap and secure payment rails for any type of cross-border transactions. And Amazon is used in like many countries of the world with very different currencies. So likely they have a whole full department of finance team thinking about how to hedge those currency exposure. Likely with stable coins, they could just kind of like to some extent get rid of it.
Right. I'm excited for their future. I think that would be so cool, just to be able to transact anywhere from my Web3 wallet and having stables there or any other currency that can easily be converted on the back end, turned into actual maybe cash, because there is a fund that already has some pool in there and they just immediately like do the transaction for you. Just like, for example, Western Union, right? For transactions all over the world or like sending money, your money doesn't travel from one bank account to another world. For all of you listening who thought this was the magic, no, they have like these many banks with their own money inside, that if I am trying to send money to Gery across the world, they're like, okay, well, we took the money, and then that area in the other country, another area, be like, okay, we have the money to give to Gery, so we're going to give that money out of own pocket. But as an organization overall, we do have enough money to cover everybody's transactions and make fees on top of it, which that requires going to a specific location and doing this whole thing, and takes days. With crypto, it would be way, way, way quicker, right? And I think that's the future that we're thriving for. What do you think is the biggest downfall of Web3 and crypto currently? Like, obviously we have amazing proof of concept. A lot of things do work, but it's still early days. It's still Wild West out there. Where do you think we're missed the most?
I think what we've missed the most is likely to have use cases of like apps that really meet large scale user demand. And to some extent, we're chasing some vanity metrics there. And I think that's kind of like the biggest downfall.
So like Pumped and Fun did reach that, right? Like the usability, and it's very popular. People do come and perform actions there and participate in the platform. Do you think it's largely because, kind of to my point, I think tokenization system is not really, like, there is no utility to most tokens for some projects?
Yeah, I think, like what I said before is like that there are so many actors that are just short-term financially incentivized, that at the end of the day, there are a lot of teams that think about making some bucks quickly, right? Versus actually building real-world utilities.
True. And this is what happens a lot when you're building something new, fresh from start. Some people are there for the short term, and some people are there for the long term. Like our founder and CEO Evgeny, he moved from Disney and Hulu, building systems there. He moved to Web3 for the idea. He was like, I love this tech. I see the future in it. I want to be part of it. I want to help building this. And this is why Guru Network is there, really helping with ecosystem, helping with infrastructure. We want to see hundreds, thousands of projects being built on top. And of course, we know that 90% of them will not be the complete amazing projects, but the rest, they have amazing chance to actually becoming something awesome, right? And this is where we're heading to. And thanks to our partnership with Thirdweb, we make the sign-up authorization process a lot easier. It's smooth, it's beautiful, and it's exactly the experience we want to provide. I think the biggest downside, or like something we missed in Web3, is I think there is still coming up a better currency than Bitcoin or Ethereum or anything like that, just because of the blockchain itself. I think Bitcoin is super, super old. Most of it is lost already on some hard drives, just on some, in some dumpsters, because people did not value it back then. And, it's just too old. But it did prove the concept in terms of, hey, people will agree on some value and provide value to this, right? And Ethereum was never meant to be for payments. It was meant to be for supporting ecosystems and just one-time transaction, paying that gas fee, and then you're using that within your ecosystem. So that's not ideal as well, just because of how much time it takes and the gas fees. So, and there is a third piece as well. Third piece is blockchain currently is vulnerable to quantum technology, and quantum technology is coming out soon. Maybe next 5-7 years, but it's quite soon in technical world. And when that comes, this is where a lot of things might get scary for crypto space. So I think the next big opportunity in the space would be the new chain with its own currency that will be as fast as lightning speed, almost instant. It will have almost zero transaction fees, and it will be quantum proof. And I already hear a lot of projects working on that. I hear projects that got 2 out of 3 already. Maybe they can upgrade to make it 3 out of 3. But I still think the biggest opportunity of our lifetime is coming up when that chain comes out, that currency comes out, proven by a dev team supporting all of that stuff, not just marketing stunt, but legit technology that can change the world. That partnered with amazing ecosystem that designed to build, designed to transact with people, designed to invest easily, designed to do whatever people would need in Web3 space, using the Thirdweb, using Guru Tech, all combined together. I think this is where the golden era of Web3 is going to come. So we're here just, digging and shoveling and still building, while soon I think the era of sunrise is coming. What are your thoughts on that? What's your comment?
I think the quantum technology one is an interesting one because I dove into it 5-6 years ago already. I think at the end of the advancement in those technologies are iterative, and I think the security will always kind of always catch up to that. Of course, it means you need a hard fork, for example, like things like that, right? So you might need to change something on the underlying. But I fully agree with you. I think they're like very, very interesting use cases. I think we're still early, and it's a lot of like experimental phase for some teams. But they're like nobody kind of like is sleeping, and I feel like in the whole industry there still is like a lot of energy and activity in pushing the boundaries, and I think that's exactly what you guys do, and I think that's exactly what it needs. And you know, some of those POCs or even full-scale products will turn out to not be long-term drivers of that. But at the end of the day, it's like learning, like build, measure, learn, right? It's like building something, learning from it, like measuring from it, learning from it, and iterating over it. And I feel like we're starting to reach like a velocity in the space where this will get us into the direction where we will see blockchain technology being a backend infrastructure in terms of technology in many areas of life.
Mm-hmm. I got an interesting one for you. Do you think making building in Web3 more accessible is a good thing for the future of Web3 or a bad thing? Let me iterate on that. When you make it super hard to build on it, I think you attract better quality of developers who know what they're doing. They're there for the idea, they're there for the tech, and they maybe come with a vision that they can execute on. That makes it limited, right? Because not every smart guy with just bright idea but no technical background can't enter the space and do something. But making that super accessible, this is when you start seeing a lot of projects that just, quick up, like little firework, pom pom, and no more is left, right? What do you think? Does it benefit in the long term, or does it hurt more in the long term to have accessibility and ease of entrance?
I think, I mean, there are always both sides of the coin, right? It's like accessibility allows to have more people enter the space, and that means more spaghetti that you throw on the wall might stick, right? But at the same time, as you say, it might also kind of like attract kind of like some actors that are just here for some short-term incentives. Overall, I think more accessibility is positive and is good. At the end of the day, I don't think businesses will thrive because they had more accessibility to the technology or not. I think they will thrive because the team has like the resilience and like the vision and the obsession on getting somewhere. And you know, sometimes these are like very technical founders that have that type of vision, and sometimes it's like the less technical ones. Maybe it's someone who is a very strong designer that has a specific vision. Just this week, this is not blockchain but AI, right? It's like Johnny Ive's announcement of being acquired by OpenAI. I mean, he had a very strong vision in his head of kind of like how hardware for AI, consumer hardware, should work. And so that's what we're seeing there. And so I think accessibility is great. I think accessibility will attract, of course, all type of like flavors to get in touch with the technology. And with some of those, we will see great things, and others we will just see vanish again. And I think that's all right.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it does have both sides, and we always have to balance it off. To me, visionaries are really important, especially at this stage, right? When we have now tech to build things, and like we agreed on, UX is the biggest issue right now, just because we have the system that's already shaped in some sort of way, and now we're trying to make it, I don't know, more useful or more user friendly. And in that process, we probably have to break some things to reshape. And currently nobody knows the direction to go to, because crypto does have its own hoops to jump through. You have to have certain regulations, and it's not that easy, I will tell you. But simplifying it on the back end without users even knowing what's going on, not in a bad sense, right? Everybody who's listening, don't be scared. Nobody's trying to trick you. It's just there is a lot of tech that you don't know how your computer runs sometimes. The same thing, you don't really need to know how crypto can work as long as it performs what you need it to perform, right? I have one more interesting for you. Given your entrepreneurial experience, given your ecosystem growth, your business head, right? What do you think would be the next cool sort of startup or project to launch that doesn't exist yet? Anything that you maybe heard of, or maybe you were thinking about? Anything
If
you
I would know that, I would have started it. If I
well,
would have an answer, it would already exist.
that's true. That's true.
Good question. I have one though. I think it's a very interesting one to build on blockchain rails, and it can maybe even to some extent also embed AI. Is like, you know, the whole world is moving towards the gig economy, and I think like we see like employer of records and like certain kind of like contractor payroll tools like Deal or Remote or the likes, and then we see project management tools like Linear or Jira. But I think maybe an interesting idea to pursue is if you're like a gig worker, like, or a DAO contributor, right? And there is like one management hub where that works like a project management tool like Linear, and you get automatically paid every time like two parties agree that like the ticket moves into the next stage. You get like partial payment, like you've done your job to some extent, right? I think this might be something interesting. Is like you can pay in stable coins globally around the world. People can do micro jobs in contributing to the project, and the full payment is done by two parties purely agreeing on like, okay, this project just moved into being shipped. I think this is a very interesting one, maybe on the more also wider consumer facing side.
I think you're onto something because it really touches on something I deeply believe in. I think the era of full-time jobs is coming to an end. I think that future of humanity is we're going to be having multiple 3-day, 2-day kind of jobs, gigs, opportunities that we can just hop in, provide our knowledge, and we'll have 3, 4, 5 of those, depending on how much income you want or how much you've been paid. But then that kind of de-risks you, right? Because if anything were to happen with one of those jobs, you got another 2, 3 to support you. And this way, people will always feel like they're in charge, they're in control. I think it's going to be overall better health, mental health state for everyone. Gen Z is already doing it. I mean, I'm already doing it. This is like the economy is shifting that way, which was not possible just 5, 10 years ago. And this idea that you just presented, that would be a perfect tool for that economy as well, because people being paid progressively as they're performing tasks, and they know that, hey, this is like I'm more in charge of my own time and money. I think that is even getting closer to that vision. Is that what you were kind of heading to?
Totally. Yeah, totally. So that's exactly like one. I think maybe another one is more like, because you said like tapping knowledge, for example. So not just kind of like task completion, is there's like a lot of like very siloed knowledge in the world out there that builds up through experience, right? And so maybe I cannot tap that because it is not codified on the web as like text, but it sits in people's heads. Is like, I think if everybody can create a small vector database of his or her own knowledge and make it accessible to AI agents and the like to tap into, and you get paid for that. It's like your IP, like it's like your IP sitting in your head, right? And you can maybe make it accessible to anyone who, or any agent that wants to access your specific vertical expertise, and you get paid every time like it is being accessed, right? Every time with a handshake there, basically. I think that's another interesting one. It's like you literally pay as you go, in terms of like you pay as you tap knowledge. I think that might be another interesting element.
And does blockchain make it available? Does the Web3 make it possible as a
I think it
tech?
does, because like, you know, like you need kind of like this instant, like every time like it is being tapped, you need to handle the payment. Like I like basically you rip apart what SaaS is about, right? SaaS is like you pay for something monthly, and for the full month you can access it. And instead of that, like it's like on demand, like literally it's like at the point of time where it is being demanded. Exactly. It's like at the point of time where it's being demanded, you make the micropayment for it, like straight out there.
Interesting. Well, this is the hidden benefit of Web3. Like, I want people to understand that it's so different than the Web2, right? Anyone who's new and getting into this, that it opens up new opportunities. It opens up new business models. It opens up new ownership opportunities. It opens up new governance opportunities. It just opens up so many different levels that really could not exist before. Something I'm very excited about is voting. I still don't get why we vote in mail, in person. I was shocked this year. I was absolutely mind blown when I learned that you could go vote for a president without showing your citizenship passport. I was like, how was that a thing? Like, I'm Ukrainian, and in Ukraine, you have to provide all proof that you're a Ukrainian citizen. Only citizens are allowed to vote. Like, this is just common sense, right? But first of all, you didn't have to do that before. That's kind of interesting. Besides that, there is no real track record of who, when, right? Like, is this legit? Is this not legit? A lot of countries have a lot of issues with votes. Ukraine had that. Like, hey, did somebody, threw a bunch of those? How do you even call them? Like
the envelopes, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. It can happen, but we have the tech. We have the blockchain to solve it, right? It doesn't have to be known who voted for who. It can be encrypted, but at the end of the day, you do get a token or NFT if you are a US citizen or a citizen of any country. That allows you to vote, and this is how you do that. And the day of, you don't have to leave your bed. You wake up in the morning, you open your smartphone, and then you can just vote right away. And then results, how long will they take? It probably can be instant, right? Or it can be the end of the day, closed, immediately announced. But no, yet we're still choosing to do it differently, and then recall for revote.
I think
that makes sense.
I think you're absolutely onto something. I think one element that needs to be figured out beforehand is like the decentralized ID element of it, and like proof of humanity. Of course, kind of like you could say you need like a world ID, like kind of like scans your iris, right, to make sure that this is really you, or you have some KYC that ensures that you're kind of like a citizen of the country. I think the whole Sybil resistance is like a huge topic that keeps a lot of like people with their airdrop initiatives and everything awake, right? Is like there are farms that even if there is KYC, try to kind of like just use random IDs from people out there, create the wallet, do the activity, and just farm the airdrop. And so I think the decentralized ID, before we can really go into like decentralized voting and governance on like a state level, I think we need to figure out, okay, what does decentralized ID really look like? How can we make sure that like we prove identity of someone that is eligible?
Therefore, I think the first step is to integrate the documentation on blockchain that is encrypted in each block. And then I graduated from university. I got that on blockchain. I had a baby. I got married. I do certain things in life. Even I worked for somebody, and there is a proof of work that I did. And next time I get employed, I can just give the keys to that specific party. They can access my information. It's been recorded not even by me, but the institution that provided it. Avoids all the fraud, gives transparency. And this is how certain NFTs or keys can be given to people, right? Based on their eligibility on blockchain, because the system knows who owns or who has what credentials without knowing who this person really is. And that would be the first step towards it. I think that would be a fantastic future where I would want to be part of. And maybe the next step after that would be going into community tokenization, into figuring out how we can do more of a peer-to-peer trade, how we can really, support each other in that sense. Do you have any, have you ever fantasized about that? Have you ever thought about how that could look like?
Totally. I don't know if you used it too. I use Splitwise a lot with like my group of friends. It's like, we do like a trip for a weekend or whatever. We set up a Splitwise group. Everybody puts in their bills. That is a manual process, by the way. Like you can't just kind of like hook up your transactions and it just kind of like flows in there, right? And then everybody has a bit of like a different price elasticity on some elements, right? Like somebody buys like kind of like, I don't know, some drinks for everybody, but like you really didn't ask for that, right? Or like, so I think Splitwise, for example, is a perfect example how you could just put it on a blockchain and make it easy for groups to settle payments. It's like all the payments are done from each wallet, like it automatically flows into the group and it's settled and split afterwards. Or you could even turn it around. It could be like everybody before kind of like your expenditure starts, stakes into a pool, and then everybody can through that have a share of the pool, and for example can approve certain expenditures. Do I want to participate in that or not? And only if I approve it, like it can draw from my pool, and just the settlement of the payment is always done from each individual together, because you have like the split pool, for example, or like for living arrangements, if you're like living in a shared flat, for example, all these type of like shared expenditures management, I think is also like, as you say, like it's within a community, like tokenizing it. Like you could then also create some other tokens, cashbacks. It's like if you're the person that always cleans the house, right, and always buys the detergents and whatever, maybe you get something in return, right? Maybe you get like another point on like the scale for, I don't know, using the bathroom for longer.
Well, I was thinking about it in a little different manner. It's like if I'm the vendor and I'm selling some stuff, right? You can come in as a customer and you can pay me in stable, any dollar or whatever amount, or there is a local community currency, which I will take less of. I will give you a discount if you pay in that currency because we are part of the community. It means you had to earn it somewhere within the community doing something good, right? And then you can spend it in my shop for less because I'm part of this community. And also the same thing with me. I'm earning this currency when I do something, and I can spend it somewhere and getting cheaper product or better service or whatever it is, just because I'm participating in this community. And this is the great way to track it and manage it.
I think that makes also total sense. Have you ever heard of like the company Sodexo?
No.
This is like kind of like an employee perks kind of thing. Is like I think it's a very European. So I'm from Austria, and I think Sodexo is a French company. And I think they're available in like France, maybe Germany, Austria, where like instead of like meal vouchers or like carpe diems, you get Sodexo vouchers, and then you have certain places that accept those vouchers, and like you might get some discounts by using them on some stores, whatever. But it's a very interesting Web2 setup of things. I think using blockchain would make it 100x more efficient, easier to use, better UX. You know, like I would be able to trade them maybe with others, everything like that, right? So I think that makes a lot of sense as well. By the way, like one other example that just came to my mind that I think is a very cool application I want to highlight because not a lot of people know about it is Lufthansa has an app called UpTrip, which literally is blockchain based. Instead of your mileage program, you can scan your boarding passes, you mint basically certain cards for it, you can trade those, and you can redeem them for different type of like perks. And so I think very few people know that, but that actually is a very nice example of how you can use in an enterprise, like in a big Web2 enterprise, you can use the blockchain technology for actually a very nice use case.
I love it. Well, after the show, would love to chat with you more about maybe, other use cases, because I'm collecting all of that. And I love finding like the real value add stuff. I have a few more I can share with you if you're interested afterwards. To sum it up, we have major opportunity and challenge in Web3 is UX. Please, UX designers, come to Web3 and help us build better experiences. And to wrap up this show, Gery, I want to ask you one last question, right? I just had it in my mind, and I think I am forgetting the question itself. But overall, this is the question, right? It's very basic. Like everybody starts like, what brought you to Web3? And it's very, everybody heard those answers. We all come for the tech. We all come for the exciting opportunities. But my question is, what keeps you in Web3?
What really keeps me in Web3 is, I think, the potential to change the economy. Like, I think the economy will change through Web3. Like the way how I said, like things from like SaaS models being completely changed, like even currencies. I think my favorite, if I reflect about kind of like how my weeks go by, and I said like I'm speaking to ecosystems and like teams building in ecosystems, I would say some of like my absolute favorite conversations are the ones with teams from emerging markets, like Latin America, Africa, Southeast Asia. Like there are teams that build stuff that literally have a profound impact on how their users gonna experience life. Is like we can't often imagine that, but there's a huge population out there that is unbanked, right? That cannot easily tap all the different financial systems and like products and features that we can. And for them, crypto makes a difference. Like in Argentina, there is a huge amount of people that hold stablecoin because their currency is too unstable. And so to literally hedge their risks, they use stablecoin. Without crypto, this would have been absolutely impossible for them. And so I think it's really kind of like the impact that crypto can have. And I think crypto can have in all of us in the long term. And we already see that now, I think, very, very strongly in emerging markets. And I think this is really, really exciting.
I love it. I think it makes sense. And emerging markets are very fascinating because they skip some levels of infrastructure or development, right? Like Ukraine got really fast internet right away. Like our internet is cheap and super fast. Like United States is still catching up to that because they had systems before. That still makes sense. Their power grid is not perfect, right? But some other countries already built with modern technology power grid. Or I know Africa skipped all the landline communication. They're just straight to cell phone. Like, why would we even do that? And the same thing with payments and other things. Going straight to crypto, this is just the beginning for them. And the whole world will have to catch up to that standard because after seeing how amazing it is, and we are part of building this future. So I think that's very exciting. Gery, thank you for being part of the show. Thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing your experience. Look forward to following your journey, seeing where you guys take Thirdweb, seeing how you improve the UX experience, because I think you guys are doing an amazing job. We're proud to be partners together and build together. And we look forward to changing the Web3 space.
Same here. Thanks for having me, Yaro, and really excited about the partnership as well.
Of course.